Drop your location and local time in the comments. Ross always liked knowing who was out there tuning in while he spun these stories out like a fishing line. This morning the line was taut. The rotors of the Lake Mercy rescue helicopter were already whipping the grass flat when 5 black SUVs came barreling up the access road. Doors popped open and out stepped men in pressed uniforms, sheriff's patches, sewn neat badges flashing under the floodlight haze. On any other Tuesday you'd think this was official business, radios, crackling boots, crunching, and all the theatrical trimmings of authority. But Ross noticed something just slightly off, the kind of thing historians still argue whether a gut feeling counts as evidence. One of them was wearing a patch from a county 200 miles away. Karen Donnelly, queen of the Lakeside Estates HOA, stood near the rope line, arms crossed, pink clipboard clamped to her chest like a shield. She wasn't barking orders today, more like staring at the helicopter with that odd blend of desperation and stubbornness that could make a person do the wrong thing for what they think is the right reason. What Ross didn't know yet was that 20 minutes earlier she'd been on the phone with her insurance company being told that if the federal flood risk drill went ahead, her son Jake's $200,000 in treatment coverage might vanish like steam off a pond. Maya, his wife, was adjusting the frequency scanner at her little makeshift tech station. She caught snippets of chatter that didn't match any of the assigned federal channels. Civilian walkie-talkie bands, cheap and leaky. It was like overhearing someone ordering tacos on a line that was supposed to be encrypted. She flagged Ross, but the 10-minute takeoff call had already come. Captain Duke Whitman, Ross's dad, rolled his wheelchair closer, binoculars up. He fixed on a shorter man in the sheriff's group. "That's Tommy Bulldog," Martinez Duke shouted over the engine noise. "I arrested him for impersonating a Fed." That was the moment the gut feeling turned into hard fact. Ross's Coast Guard training kicked in no sudden moves, keep the appearance of compliance, and quietly hopped to the secure frequency Blue 12. Mayday. Mayday Lake. Mercy Rescue. Requesting verification. Suspected unauthorized personnel interfering with federal drill. The answer came fast. No law enforcement response had been authorized. Every real badge in the area now had their eyes on those SUVs. Somewhere in the crowd, Karen's lips moved like she was telling herself this was still under control, even as the downdraft from the helicopter made her clipboard rattle against her chest. The lead imposter, a stocky man calling himself Detective Mills, marched forward, holding a folder thick with court-looking paperwork shouting about aviation violations and restricted airspace. He projected the confidence of a man who thought the costume made the character. The funny thing about fraud, like wearing a Renaissance fair crown to a board meeting, is that it can fool folks from a distance, but up close the glue and glitter start to show. Maya lens up was capturing every twitch. Her scanner caught them muttering about a boss lady and keeping the bird on the ground until we get paid. No lawman talks like that, not unless he's in a bad made-for-TV cop show. Meanwhile, the federal observers, stopwatches in hand, traded looks like chess players, suddenly realizing someone had switched the board for checkers. Then the tall, jittery one in Mills's crew lunged toward the helicopter's fuel line, as if yanking it would force Ross to shut down. Ross vaulted from the pilot's seat, grabbed the man's wrist, and yanked him clear, shouting over the rotor roar. Mills barked, "That's assault on an officer," his voice wobbling just enough to make Captain Duke grin like a cat spotting a mouse in church. The low thump of heavy rotors rolled in from the southeast. Maya caught it first in her headphones. Then everyone heard it: FBI air support inbound in 3 minutes. The imposter's body language shifted like kids caught with a slingshot in the principal's office. Nobody said anything about the FBI one hissed on an open channel. The Black Hawk swept over the tree line, its downdraft flattening everyone's bravado. Out stepped Agent Rodriguez, calm as a surgeon and twice as precise. Credentials flashed, questions, fired, documents taken. Mills hesitated before handing his folder over, that blink of doubt sealing the verdict in Rodriguez's mind. And then the confession walked in on its own 2 feet. Karen emerged from behind an SUV, tears streaking her cheeks, Jake wheeling fast toward her. "Mom," "What did you do?" he asked, voice cracking just enough to still the onlookers. Karen's answer about insurance cancellations, $200,000 in treatment money, and trying to buy time landed like a stone in still water ripples spreading through the stunned crowd. Maya didn't stop filming. Her zoom locked on Karen's phone as she tried deleting emails, fingers trembling. Click evidence frozen in pixels, payment confirmations, tactical instructions from T. Martinez Consulting, and a $5,000 per man price tag for stopping the drill. Historians still argue whether desperation excuses a crime, but in that moment, nobody doubted this was federal territory now. What spilled out next turned the drill site into a live crime scene. Under questioning Tommy Bulldog, Martinez admitted they'd been hired on the promise this was just a noise dispute, but Maya's recordings told a fuller story, chatter about insurance angles stalling until legal paperwork gets sorted and protecting property values at all costs. When Agent Rodriguez's financial crimes team dug into the HOA accounts, the picture sharpened. Karen, treasurer and president, had siphoned funds meant for landscaping repairs, even the legal defense reserve to cover Jake's uncovered medical expenses, and finally the imposter fee. Jake's face hearing it laid out was worse than any lecture. "Mom, I told you we didn't need more treatments," he said softly. The crowd didn't move, as if one wrong shuffle would tip the fragile air. Karen sobbed, saying she'd panicked when the insurance threat came that morning. The federal scope widened quickly, Rodriguez calling it a multi-state conspiracy to obstruct disaster, preparedness with potential terrorism enhancements. Karen faced decades in prison, but chose cooperation, offering names, emails, and bank accounts for a $50 million network of HOA officials, insurance adjusters, and private security companies in the disruption business. Lakeside Estates residents didn't waste time pointing fingers. They launched the Jake Donnelly Medical Fund before the FBI had even cleared the field. "We'll get you to Germany the right way," one neighbor said, pledging cash on the spot. Within an hour, $30,000 was in the pot. By afternoon, the flood risk assessment went ahead, confirming the reclassification Karen had tried to stop. Grants were filed for barriers and early warning systems. The HOA rewrote its bylaws to block unilateral spending. Maya's footage hit national news, drawing praise for exposing how personal desperation can be exploited. Her story earned a Pulitzer nod, though she stayed local, covering the slow, honest rebuild. 6 months later, Operation Shelterstorm rolled up similar networks in 47 states. Jake became an advocate, testifying before Congress about the impossible choices families face. Karen served 5 years, visiting with her son every weekend, their conversations now stripped of illusions. Ross, watching the sun slide over Lake Mercy, prepped the helicopter for a trip south. Miami had a hurricane drill under threat from armed feds of dubious origin, the contact an FBI agent Rodriguez once warned him about. Historians still argue whether lightning can strike twice, but in Ross's line of work you learn to keep the rotors warm just in case. The breeze off the lake was steady, carrying the scent of pine and the faint echo of that day's Black Hawk thrum. For now, the shoreline was calm, the houses safe, and the people just a little wiser about the cost of looking away. The story, however, was far from over.